Atticus, where are you?
Over here, Scout, on the porch.
Maudie went to the library today.
Miss Maudie and I, Scout.
Oh, whatever. You get what I'm saying. But Atticus, I found this new book I want to read.
Well, that's great, Scout. What's it about?
I don't really know. Miss Maudie said it's just really good. There's this name, Daisy, in it, and I think the cover says Gabby. I don't know, Atticus. I just want to read it. Will you read it with me?
Scout, darling, I think you're talking about The Great Gatsby.
Oh, that's the name. I was about to say that.
Are you sure you want to read that?
Yes, definitely. Will you read it with me?
Of course. Now here's a few coins. Why don't you go and get it?
Atticus! Okay, come in. I got the book, Atticus.
That's grand, Scout.
Can we start reading now?
Of course. Hand over the book.
Can I read it?
Well, sure.
In my younger than girl years, my father gave me advice that I've been turning over in my mind ever since. Whenever you feel like criticizing anyone, he told me, just remember that all the people in this world haven't had the adventures that you've had. Atticus, I don't get this book. This book is confusing. Have you read it before?
Why? Yes, I have, Scout.
Will you tell me what happens?
Now, Scout. You'll have to read it eventually. But if you insist on me explaining it, I will.
Thanks.
So this book has four main characters: Nick, the narrator; Daisy, a beautiful woman who is married to Tom, who is the third main character, and then there is the Gatsby.
Tell me more about Daisy.
Well, Daisy is an interesting person. She comes from money, and lots of money at that. She is not only extremely wealthy, but she is also quite beautiful. Men would line up at her door to get a glimpse of her.
Man, she sounds like a superstar.
Scout, that she was. I'm going to start from the beginning, not to get you confused. Nick just moved from Chicago to this place called West Egg, which is by New York. Nick was very rich compared to what we're used to, but compared to Daisy and her husband Tom, he was relatively poor. See, before the Depression, people could either come from extremely rich families, which were called blue bloods, or they were poor. It's very different now. And here in Macomb, Alabama, you're following along, Scout?
Yes, Atticus.
Okay, well, so Nick is now in New York, living in a cottage by this huge mansion, but he doesn't know who lives in it. Then he meets up with his cousin Daisy and her husband Tom at their huge house over in East Egg. Tom, like Daisy, is a blue blood and is extremely rude and wealthy. He is arrogant. In the middle of their dinner, goes to answer the telephone. On the other line is his mistress. Daisy acts like she doesn't understand what's going on, but on the inside she knows.
I'm just sorry, but where's Gatsby? Isn't the book about him?
It is. It's okay, Scout. I was just going to bring him up. Gatsby is extremely rich as well, but no one really personally knows him. Every 2 weeks he has these extravagant parties. Many people show up, even those that aren't invited. And half the people never even meet Gatsby, but a lot of the people were suspicious of him. People will tell you, Nick, that they get this feeling like he killed a man, but they don't really know for sure.
Then why does he throw these parties if he doesn't know anyone?
Be patient, Scout. I will eventually address your question.
Okay, Atticus.
So, back to Gatsby. One day a car shows up in Nick's driveway, and it's one of the Gatsby servants inviting Nick to this party. So Nick went back to the party and saw these drunken people acting stupid and trashing Gatsby's place. Until the end, he didn't see Gatsby, and he didn't even recognize him. Gatsby was a young man, but Nick thought he was old because of his wealth. Eventually, Nick and Gatsby became friends.
That's just great. This Gatsby fellow seems pretty lonely.
He is, until one day Gatsby asked Nick for a favor. He was too embarrassed or too shy to ask Nick himself. So this woman, Jordan Baker, asked Nick for Gatsby.
What's the favor, Atticus?
Jordan explained the story to Nick. Back when Daisy and Gatsby were young, they were in love. She saw the look in their eyes when they were together, especially one moment when they were in Daisy's white sports car. But they were separated because Gatsby had to go to war. He wanted her to wait for him, but right before he came back she met Tom. Tom had money, which Gatsby didn't. And society does not allow people to marry down. With hesitation, she married Tom. But still, she was in love with Gatsby.
Atticus, you still never told me about Gatsby's favor.
Gatsby asked Jordan to ask Nick to ask Daisy to come down to tea at Nick's house. and have Gatsby tag along because Gatsby hadn't seen Daisy in 5 years. Do you follow that, Scott?
I think so, Atticus. I didn't expect this to be a love story. I hate love stories, but I kind of like this one.
Good. It's a fabulous book. Back to the story. Nick was planning this tea party for the two lovebirds to reunite. However, Gatsby was nervous. Eventually, Daisy shows up and Gatsby has a panic attack and hides. He began thinking this was a bad idea. However, Nick made him realize that this is what he wanted, and it was rude to leave Daisy alone. So they unify, and the spark was relit. Gatsby brings up the idea of going to his house, so he could show Daisy his wealth. She is amazed and begins to cry, and some clothes imported from Europe.
Atticus, why is Daisy crying over clothes? That's kind of weird.
Well, she says that she's never seen such beautiful clothes in her life. It all goes with her perception of girls being a beautiful little fool. She, like she wanted her daughter to be. However, she is realizing she made the wrong decision marrying Tom instead of Gatsby. She sees all of Gatsby's wealth, his charming personality, and it is sad that she is stuck with Tom's ugly, conceited, arrogant personality.
What happens next?
Daisy and Gatsby begin having an affair. Gatsby's head over heels for Daisy and does everything for her. He has another one of his huge parties, but this time, Daisy and Tom show up. A lot of movie stars attend the event. However, there were also a lot of uninvited guests who were obnoxious. Daisy didn't like the atmosphere, and Gatsby knew. So that was the last party he ever had.
So Gatsby was having all those parties just for Daisy?
Yes, Scout, you get it. He wanted her to show up at one of those parties.
Oh my, he really was in love with her.
Yes, it was. Well, Tom at this point is very suspicious of Gatsby. He had never heard of him before, and suddenly this man appears out of nowhere and is spending a lot of time with his wife. He thinks he is this new rich and is involved in some shadiness, in some shady business. So they go into the city, and they are all sitting around until Tom gets angry that Gatsby and Daisy are still all over each other. Then Gatsby admits that Daisy never loved Tom. Tom begins to get defensive. Daisy admits to not ever loving Tom. Once Tom realizes this, he gets angry and reveals he had an investigation on Gatsby. So Daisy begins to say that she at one point did love Tom, but she also loved Gatsby. But she was very quiet about it. Then they all separated, and Gatsby and Daisy left in Gatsby's yellow convertible. Myrtle and her husband were fighting because they had a suspicion she wasn't being completely loyal. So she saw the yellow car coming and ran out to it, but the car never stopped.
Myrtle.
Well, what do you think, Scott?
Did she get ran over?
A man witnessed the incident, and he told the police and Mr. Wilson, Myrtle's husband, that it was an expensive-looking yellow convertible. He was utterly disappointed that his wife was gone, but he thought he knew who did it, until Tom sees all the commotion at the gas station, so he stopped. He saw his mistress dead on a bench wrapped in sheets. Tom told Mr. Wilson that it wasn't his car, but he said he knew who owned it.
Is Mr. Wilson going to get back at Gatsby?
So, Nick, Jordan, and Tom are back at Tom's house, and Daisy has already arrived. Tom invites Nick into the house. Nick stayed on the porch waiting for a taxi. In the bushes, he saw a shadow. It was Gatsby. So Nick went to talk to him and to tell him what happened. He found out that Daisy was driving. But if they got caught, Gatsby was going to take the blame.
Is this the end?
No. Gatsby was in his pool for the first time before it was drained. Mr. Wilson came because he found out whose car it was. Boom!
Did Mr. Wilson kill Mr. Gatsby?
Gatsby is dead. Nick tried contacting Daisy, but she and Tom had left with no trace to find him. Nick tried contacting some of Gatsby's friends or people who worked with him, but nobody could be reached. The only people that cared about his death were Nick, reporters, and his father. He was lonely because he dedicated his life to Daisy and wealth.
I'm guessing that's the end of the story.
Basically.
Okay, Atticus, I'm tired.
Okay. I'll have Cal tuck you in.
Good night, Atticus.
Good night, Scott.